Welcome to Breezeway's People Behind the Property series. This series celebrates the professionals who make vacation rentals more than just places to stay. Because behind every spotless clean, every smooth check in, and each thoughtful touch, there's someone dedicated to elevating hospitality. Our goal is simple it's to share these stories, to share their impact, and to remind us all that great guest experiences start with great people. Hi, Kristi. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm so good. I am super excited to be chatting with you today for our People Behind the Properties video series. So this is something new that we're trying here at Breezeway. And, as we sort of think about all of the work that goes into delivering hospitality to guests, one of the biggest pieces is all of the people who are doing the work. And so when we think about it, we're thinking about how Breezeway can support all of the individuals who on a daily basis are doing all of the tasks and the necessary steps to accommodate your guests and make sure that they have great experiences when they stay with you all. And so I'm really excited to chat with you. To kick things off, tell me a little bit about you.
All right. My name is Kristi. So I've been next week, actually, will be my 11th year here at Cabins for You. So I initially started out in the medical field. I was an EMT, and just kind of with the family dynamic, that didn't really work for me. So I switched over to vacation rental. So I've been here for the past 11 years. I started out, up through the chain. I started out as a reservationist, worked my way to customer care, then dispatch, and now I'm the manager of our dispatch department.
Amazing. Well, 11 years, that's a long time. And so you're and then prior doing EMT work, which is so important. So thanks for everything you did there. And I know that the work you do at Cabins for You is really important. So tell us a little bit more about your dispatch team and sort of what that looks like and what y'all do, like what a typical day looks like for you.
All right. So my team, I have three agents that work with me. So two of them work for our Tennessee market, and then the third one works for our Georgia market. And Breezeway has really helped us get all of those things into one place so that we're not having to go to multiple different platforms to try to find information. So day to day, we come in, we see what work orders may have been put in the night before, whether they were guest reported, if a guest checks in and finds an issue, or if they were reported by housekeeping before the guests arrived, or inspectors, maintenance, any of those personnel. So we go through all of those work orders, see if there's any other work order similar to that in the properties, just to see if we already have something in the works or things like that. And then we go through and we assign our maintenance guys routes throughout the day. So in the Tennessee market, we have, about 5 or 6 different maintenance guys per day that we will have to schedule work orders for. So Breezeway allows us to put in filters and property tags and things like that so that we can narrow it down to put one maintenance guy in one area so that they're not on top of each other. So that's a feature that we use right off the bat as soon as our morning starts in Breezeway.
Well, and I know I've actually stayed with you all. Been a little while now, but you look at I've stayed with you in the Tennessee market, and specifically when you start to think about, oh, this house is only a mile from the next house. Well, that mile could take you, 25 minutes. Maybe that's an exaggeration, but it could take you. It's not just
No,
like
I could.
and so I think it's so interesting and so important to be able to, group that work together
Yes.
so that you're not you're not having people zigzagging around and you can really drive efficiency through the team. Um,
Yes.
so I love that you're doing that. How many, I guess like on average, like how many, you said 5 to 6 people a day sort of working, but like, what is their typical workload?
So we typically try to get them to complete at least 10 to 12 work orders per day, per tech. We have, right over 450 properties in Tennessee. So we try to get as many done as possible. So that's where the features in Breezeway really come in handy. Being able to filter them out by what we call zones. So having three different zones so that they, like this week is Rod Run. So we have to make sure that we're not having them cross the parkway, because to us here, wherever you live, it's not that far away, like you said.
Right.
But up there in Tennessee during Rod Run, it's back to back traffic. So, bumper to bumper, you can't really cross the parkway very easily. Traffic lights get stopped up. So we really try to keep them focused in on those zones. And that really is how we get those things done. And we get anywhere from 10 to 12 per maintenance tech per day, just with Breezeway's efficiency.
That's awesome. What about when you think about, on a daily, not necessarily even a daily basis, but like when you go home or you close the computer right at the end of the day, like what gives you the most satisfaction in the job that you do?
Knowing that we've helped guests in their vacations, just because to us it may be something very minor, but to them it may be, not having Wi-Fi in their property. To me, that's really not a big deal. But in today's day and age, like you have people that are caregivers at home, and they rely on Breezeway to go, or not Breezeway, they rely on Wi-Fi. To check in on their family members.
Yeah.
So while that may not be a big issue for us, it could be for them. It could be whether their peace of mind is, satisfied or not because they can't get in touch with their grandmother at home, those types of things. And while we see the day-to-day task, a toilet overflowing, those types of things, like to us, it may not be a major thing, but to a guest, it could honestly make or break their vacation. It could, the way that we respond and the way that we send someone out could either make or break them staying with us again.
Right.
So it honestly makes, a full circle moment whenever you put yourself in their perspective to say, how would I react if this happened to me and I had certain things going on?
Isn't it funny? And I don't know if you find the same thing. I become, given the proximity to everything that can happen as a traveler now, my perspective is so different. It's like, oh, the smoke alarm is beeping, but like it's okay, come when you can. Like I try to be like
Yes.
the most accommodating guest for everyone that we stay with.
Yeah, I try to tell my husband, hey, fix this so we don't have to call.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's so funny. Years ago, before I joined at Breezeway, I worked for a company called Flip Key. And we we always heard people talking about like, oh, one of our biggest frustrations is that guests don't report things while they're in a property and then they leave and they put it in a review and we're like, oh, we could have fixed it if we'd known about it. And I always, I guess since that day, like I've sort of kept that in my mind of, hey, they want to know. I can be very clear that they don't need to fix it today. But they
Yes.
need to know about these things because it's really easy for something to get missed that isn't like, if you're not cooking something, like you might check a burner, but like if I don't know, there's just so many opportunities for things to get
Yes.
missed. And so communicating that stuff to you guys as guests is also, part of our responsibility. And as an industry, sort of training people to understand that, like, tell me, I won't come and like
Yes.
your trip necessarily unless you
Right.
want us to.
Yes.
What do you think when you think about it's so funny. I was at a doctor's appointment this morning and she said, oh, it was so nice. So we had great weather while we were there. It didn't rain when we were going to do things. And I said, all of our clients and in our industry, like bad weather is the worst thing that can happen because then you're stuck in a cabin and you're starting to think about well, look at that thing. And well, this doesn't look right. And it starts to get really nitpicky. But I,
Yes.
when you think about it, what is the hardest part of your job or the hardest part of the business that we're in that most people don't realize is happening, like the thing that they don't think about in what it takes to get a property ready?
It kind of goes back to the full circle thing. Just most people don't understand that there's so many moving parts associated with, especially like with us, we don't own the properties. We're just managing them for, individual owners. So a lot of people don't understand that there are moving parts there. Like we're having to spend other people's money like it's our money. So We want to satisfy the guest and take care of all of their issues, but sometimes we could have things that, are roadblocks in our way. We could have something that a vendor has to go out for, but that vendor took off to spend time with their family. So it's just kind of portraying that to guests in a way of saying your issue is very important to us, but we do have these things that we're having to take care of on the backside to ensure that we get these things done. And a lot of times it's stuff that's out of our hands. Um, while we try to fix everything before a guest gets there, it's inevitable that something is going to either break or stop working, those types of things. And it's not that the property managers or the owners are ignoring those things. It just sometimes it takes time to get them replaced or get the part in to fix it. When we went through COVID, all of our ports and everything were shut down, so we couldn't get parts, and we still see some of that today. We still see some of those parts that are, months behind because they're trying to catch up from where they were shut down. And that's really the hardest part of the job is ensuring guests that we care, but we're also having to go by company standards now.
Right, right. It's so interesting. I think, you just touched on one thing, right? It's that expressing empathy, but also helping
Yes.
people understand like the position that you're in, and why something may or may not be possible, and then figuring out how do we move forward from
Yes.
there. Because I do think that once people sort of for the most part, once people understand what the limitations are, they often become a little bit more under like a little bit more understanding. Not everyone, of course, because they're
Yes.
saying, hey, I'm spending a lot of money on this trip, etc. But they are, I think it is really about, you said this earlier too, how you respond, how quickly you
Yes.
respond, the tone that you respond with, just the content of what you respond. And how you respond really goes a long way and can make or break an experience that they have. And then, as you said too, like then whether or not they come back and stay with you all.
Yes. Yes. And the features with Breezeway, with the AI stuff that's in the works, that kind of helps us be able to see how tone is read in a text message that they sent. I know these aren't questions that we're asking, but
No,
it all fits in because that really, the features with Breezeway that are, constantly adapting to the new norm is allowing us to respond to guests better. It's allowing us to set those realistic expectations and they can see when maintenance is en route now with a text message associated with their work order so they feel like they're in the know of everything, so it does really help with the transparency of making sure that they understand we're trying to get it done.
absolutely. And I love that I think the guest sentiment functionality that the team has introduced is just really a game changer. And it was even something that I wasn't really thinking about when I always find that our product teams are far more visionary than I am. And then they do
Yes.
something and I'm like, oh, of course, that totally makes sense. And I wasn't even thinking about the fact that like y'all are receiving all of these messages and like the prioritization, especially you said what, 400 homes in your Tennessee?
Yes.
I mean,
Yeah.
that could be a lot of messages to sort of dig into and understand like what needs to happen from there. So
Yeah.
I think we sort of touched on some of the questions I want to ask you about how Breezeway sort of helps or how you use it. But I think, you know, can we talk a little bit about like team coordination, right? As the dispatch, you're seeing everything that's happening and you're sort of kind of driving that ship a lot of times, and sort of having to make maneuvers and turns and twists, I'm sure, throughout the day.
Yes.
Can we talk a little bit about how you and your team stay coordinated on those busy days?
So I have my team broken up into certain categories, so to speak. So one person will be focused on the in-house maintenance work orders. The other person will be focused on the vendor work orders. So if a work order comes in that needs a vendor, then that person knows I've got to contact this vendor and I'm in charge of this work order. The in-house person, if it comes in and it's a water hose busted or, a hot tub not working, then we can do that initial troubleshooting with the in-house maintenance tech that we have on staff so they know that they're responsible for it. So in Breezeway, the sub departments really help us a lot because we can narrow down each person's focus. So if someone wants to focus on maintenance, you can just do a sub department of, in-house maintenance, and you can filter that down. And then just coordinating with each other to make sure that you're not doing the same things. But Breezeway, like I said, with the sub departments, it really makes it easy for us to be able to focus just on one thing or the other. And then we can actually we focus based off of emails that come in. So we have the email function set up to where anytime a work order is created or a task, so to speak, is created in Breezeway, we get a notification that says this work order was just created. We can see who created it, those types of things with Breezeway's functionality of the email system. So it allows us to really be able to focus down on the ones that are the most important. Not that any of them are least important or, less important than the other, but it does help us focus on the ones that guests are in-house or owners are in-house so that we can prioritize those with the priority levels to know, this is an urgent work order with this owner complaining, or this is an urgent with this guest complaining. So those functionalities truly help us be able to narrow down and coordinate and not overstep each other.
Yeah, it is so wild. So you guys have, I just want to make sure that as I'm what I'm hearing, you have your in-house teams and then
Mhm.
you sub out like work that sort of is like level, they're tiered above
Yes.
your in-house teams do. And is that the same for cleanings and maintenance? Do you have in-house
Yes.
as well? Okay.
So we actually do not have any in-house cleaners. All of our cleaners are subcontracted. So we do have, they have teams that they may have that help them clean, but we subcontract all of them. We don't have any cleaners on staff. We do have inspectors on staff though. Um, so they will go behind the cleaners to ensure, every check-in has been inspected and everything is good. Whether we need to send, a cleaner back just to touch something up, or, letting those cleaners know that they're doing a wonderful job cleaning the properties. They're able to see that through, Breezeway to see those comments that are made. And that really helps our team feel that their job isn't just a meaningless task. It actually makes a difference.
And I think that's the hardest thing. We just did our statement of work report. So we do this on an annual basis, um and I was blown away by the amount of people, and I don't have the exact stat here, but like by the amount of people who just said like and you said this at the beginning, and so it just, it reiterated to me like there's just such great pride in the work that people do in the hospitality industry, and really with that end goal of ensuring that your guests have a great stay, that they come back and book with you again.
Yes.
And I just think like, a lot of times if we ask in other industries, like why do you do what you do, and like what sort of gets you up, gets you motivated every morning, right? It's like a paycheck. And that's not
Yes.
the case here, right? And I think
No.
that is so impactful, and it so much influences the way that people operate and the way that they do their work
Yes.
because of that pride that they have that goes into it.
Yes.
So I think that's really cool. And so I do want to sort of talk about, we'll ask you a couple more questions
Yeah.
about like team and tools and things, but while we talk about that pride, what how does it feel for you, or even someone on your team, right, when you do get a guest that sort of recognizes and appreciates all of the effort that you're putting into addressing their issues?
So it honestly turns your day around, because no matter what you have going on in your life, or what's going on that day, you could feel like you have the world on your shoulders, because you're getting bombarded with issue after issue after issue. But seeing that recognition just from a guest, an owner, anyone honestly that notices that little extra effort that you have put forth, it truly can turn your entire day around. I know for our call center, the customer care agents, they honestly, all you hear is the bad.
Yeah.
or that's so what it seems like. You only hear from a very few portion of the good age or the good stays, the good vacations that everybody has. The bad outweighs the good, a lot of times. So truly hearing that or seeing your name in a guest survey saying this person really made me feel like I was important. It really made me feel like they cared. It truly can turn the entire day around.
Yeah. Is there anything that you guys do internally to, or like a process that you guys have internally to like make sure that guest surveys or guest reviews sort of get back to those people or get shared across the team so everybody can sort of build one another up?
Yeah, so we actually have videos that are sent out once a month throughout the company, and it'll say, employee spotlight on, this guest put this in a review, and like they'll read out the entire portion about that employee. So it allows the entire company to see that, not just that person. So I feel like that too is a huge thing that helps an employee is to have that recognition, not just for themselves, but for the whole company, so that you can try to push everybody else to say, hey, let's try to get another one. Let's try to get another recognition. Let's try to get another survey that says our name. So they really will put forth their best effort to try to satisfy everyone to get their name mentioned.
I love that. And I think it's that like it's great if your manager tells you that you're doing something well, but it's
Yes.
even cooler if like five of your coworkers tell you how awesome you are. So I love
Yes.
that you guys do that. Um, okay, so that's when something goes great and somebody is a total overachiever. And I say that in a somewhat like joking manner. There are people that are total overachievers, but there are just also people that are doing their job on a regular basis and doing it
Mhm.
with such pride and ownership, that has a big impact on guests as well. So I think that is something that makes the people in our industry super special. But if we flip that on its head, what about when things don't go right? Right? What about when something does go wrong? Like, what is your sort of I mean, you guys have internal processes. I don't need you to go into like the specific details, but like, is there like a go-to that you've learned in 11 years that can sort of turn a guest's experience or an owner's experience even around when something does go wrong? Because like you said earlier, you can have every inspection, you can do everything right, and something that worked fine on Tuesday could break on Wednesday. So like what do you sort of what's your tip or trick when it doesn't hit mark?
So in that case, I try to, when I was in customer care, I would try to get to something that I could relate to the guest with. I could tell them I would really feel this exact same way if I was in your shoes. But I promise you that I'm going to do everything that I can. We may not be able to fix everything. There may be things that, like I said, we're waiting on a vendor to get a part and it may not come in until the guests check out. So it really boils down to putting yourself in their shoes. So letting them know, I know how you're feeling. This is a terrible situation. I'm going to do everything that I can for you. So it doesn't really stop there though. You can't stop with just the talk. Like you actually have to walk the walk. So you have to actually follow up with the guests. And I've found in my experience with it that the more you follow up with the guest and say, "Hey, I haven't forgotten about you. We're still working on this. We're trying different avenues. We're trying to find someone else that can go out. We're trying all of these different things." Just letting them know every step of the way because a lot of times it's like that set it and forget it. They think that that's what's happening to them. They think that they've called it in and we don't care. We got their money. We don't care about them. So just relating yourself to them and following up with them. And then after the issue is fixed, following back up with them to say, I'm so glad that we were able to get this fixed for you. Is there anything else that I can do for you? Is there anything that I can do to make your stay better? A lot of times, if you give a guest a late checkout, that could mean the world to them. It could mean, hey, I don't have to rush to get out of here. In the grand scheme of things, you think, all this guest wants is a refund. That's it. Like that's all you think about in the back of your mind. But you could do so much more for guests, and that's kind of what I figured out in my experience with it is figuring out what I could do to help them that I could stay within our company guidelines. So whether that was giving them a late checkout, whether that was, we have an orphan night tomorrow. Let's see if we can get it at a discounted rate. Let's see if this owner will allow this since we had this issue. Just all of those outside of the box things. Like, don't just put every guest into the same box to say, oh, well, that last person I talked to, all they wanted was a refund. That's all this one wants. Like, you really can't do that. You have to put on that smile and talk to the next guest and act like, not really act, but you want to put on that you really care about them. And a lot of times with us not being face to face, we're just, over the phones.
Yeah.
They really think that you don't care about them. So just showing that, and I've had several guests that have been at the point like, I'm never staying with you again. I don't care about your properties, blah blah blah, to at the end of the phone call they're like, since you took such great care of me, I will be back for my next vacation.
Yeah.
And then, you tell them, call me, I'll help you get a property the next time you come. Just kind of building that rapport with them. It really truly helps those bad days. I mean, you're still going to have those guests that you cannot get with, like you cannot get on their level. They want to speak to someone higher than you, regardless. Like in those cases, you just have to, smile through it and just do everything that you can to try to get them to calm down.
So many things, Kristi, that you just said, I think are important for people who are hearing this, right? It is about like asking what somebody needs and what's going to make this better for them. I don't remember how many times I have heard at conferences where someone's like, I was ready to give them 2-night refund. And they were like, could we just like have a cooler? Right.
Yeah.
You're like, oh my gosh, like, there's so much opportunity to like surprise and delight guests. We say that
Yeah.
a lot in our company. But it really is about like, how do we listen to them? How do we get creative in
Yes.
the offering that we give, and how do we do so, like you said, within the company guidelines, but also that are going to be what's important to them.
Yes.
You talked about like following up, and I think that is such a huge thing. I think so often, and this is applicable not just in property management, but in tech and
Everywhere.
everything. It's like, I got your email, I'm doing what I need to do, and I'm going to update you as soon as I have an update for you.
Mhm.
But that guest doesn't know what you're doing behind the scenes. And so I think that like open communication is so important. And there were like 7 other things that you said that I thought were so amazing in there. So I love to hear that. I do want to wrap it up. I want to ask you one question about Breezeway, and then a couple personal questions, not too crazy personal. If you had to pick, you've already talked about some things that you like really love and you sort of rely on and you use all the time in your day-to-day, but if you had to pick like 1 or 2 parts of the product
Yes.
like you couldn't live without, what would they be?
So for me, it would be sub departments, personally. And then honestly, being able to put in property tags. So we can set those to filter down or things like that. Honestly, I love everything about Breezeway. In my 11 years, we've used multiple different softwares for work order assigning, and this honestly has been the best software that we have ever used. But those 2 things just in my department, those are my favorite features is the sub department and the being able to filter things.
Okay, awesome. And we talked about why both of
With
those are
Breezeway, yeah.
sort of start of the conversation. So that's awesome. Okay, so now we're going to talk about you. Couple quick questions. We're a little over time, but this has been so fun. Okay, what's the weirdest or the funniest thing that you guys have found at a property that's appropriate for our conversation?
Yes.
Disclaimer, appropriate for this context.
Trying to see the weirdest. Honestly, I've heard so much throughout the years. Um, I guess one of the weirdest would be, someone, and it's kind of sad too, but someone left like a pet squirrel. Like we just come in and find it in a cage, and it's like, did y'all mean to leave this? And yeah, they didn't want to take it home. So I'm like, did you just catch it or like what happened?
Wait, Okay, so now I have to, of course, ask, was it a pet-friendly home that they were staying in?
Honestly, I don't think it was. I don't think that it was.
And I don't think that squirrels are probably on your approved list of pets either way.
Right.
Okay. So they abandoned their pet squirrel in a property. So, I mean, I don't, you know what? That's a whole nother conversation. Okay.
Yeah.
I have so many questions about this now. Okay. Blah, blah, blah. What is something? No, I'm not gonna ask you that one. If you in your like your role at Cabins for You had a theme song, what would it be? These are the hard ones because they're not about like your job necessarily. I don't even know.
Yeah. So I think just for me, we are in the Smoky Mountains, home of Dolly Parton. So the working 9 to 5, honestly, is something that truly resonates with my day to day. Like that's kind of what it feels like. Is I clock in, work my 8 hours, and go home. But for me as a manager, it doesn't stop at 5 o'clock when I clock out.
Right.
But yeah, that's kind of what I would theme it up as.
I love that. And it's very fitting because don't you guys also have Dollywood right there in
Yes.
the Smoky Mountains? Okay.
Yes.
So perfectly fitting. All right. So now we're just gonna do a quick lightning round and then I'll let you go because
Yeah.
you've got a ton of stuff to do. I'm just
You're
gonna
good.
ask you two things
Okay.
and whichever one is strikes your fancy. Dogs
Okay.
or cats. Or maybe I should have added squirrels, but we'll go dogs or cats.
Dogs.
Okay. Do you have any pets?
I do have a dog.
Okay, me too. I have a
Oh,
golden retriever and she's somewhere around here right now. All
a
right. This
little
I think
dachshund.
is a little, you have a dachshund?
Yes.
Oh my gosh, so cute. Okay. I feel like this is sort of a loaded question because of where you guys are located, but this is you personally. Beach,
Okay.
mountains.
Beach.
Okay. Me too. Favorite beach? Do you have a favorite one?
Growing up, we always went to St. George Island.
Mm.
So that's kind of my go-to spot. It's so peaceful. You're close enough to Panama City that if you want to drive there, you can. But it's just so much quieter in St. George Island.
It's beautiful. And I had
Yes.
the chance to go there a few years ago. So I wasn't like there on a trip, but I was there for a couple hours. So pretty. Sunrise or sunset?
Sunset.
Same. I'm never
Yeah.
up for the sunrise.
No. I
Uh,
have to be sick to be up at sunrise.
Something's wrong with me or I have an early flight. Okay, salty or sweet?
Sweet.
Same. We're very similar. All of them have been the same for me. Kristi, this has been so fun. It's been really nice to get to know you a little bit more. Is there anything else that you were hoping I was going to ask you that I didn't that you want to share with people who are watching?
If you haven't signed up for Breezeway, sign up for it.
Now they're going to think I asked you to say that. I did not. That was a total organic plug.
Yeah.
Love
No,
it.
honestly, it really will make a difference in your task assignments. Like I said, we've been through several different platforms, and it honestly is the best.
I love that. Thank you. That's so kind. We've been working with y'all for so many years and just love the team. So appreciate you taking the time to sit with me today and sharing a little bit about your experience and you and we'll let you know as soon as this is ready. And until next time, when we talk to more people behind the properties.
Sounds good.